Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. And guess what, guys? It's summer tubbing time. It's that time of year again. It's one of my favorite times of year to be able to bring fish outside and create these ecosystems outdoors where they are originally from. You can see with that natural sunlight, just the colors of these fish so much better as well. And it's an excuse to be outside by these things as well. So, what am I doing this year? I am going to show you the process of how I took my pond that was down here in my fish room and brought it outside and created something that I'm absolutely in love with. So stay tuned and I'll show you what I did. So this was the last day that this pond was down in my fish room. Now, to explain a little bit, I wanted to put this one outside, and if you've seen my last video, my Dirted Filterless Fish Room vlog episode 1, I explained I was looking for somewhere to put a new tank I'm getting. And well, I decided to put it on that wall where my pond was, but my wife forbid me of getting rid of those goldfish, so they're gonna go outside for the summer, and then I'll find room for them in the fish room. I'm draining the pond right now, as you can see. I got all the fish in that little tub I just showed, and this is going to be a process. Now that I have this pond completely drained, all that's left is the gravel. It's really going to be scooping out all that gravel, and then these are all the plants that are left, and I'm going to try to incorporate them within this tub outside, and it's really getting that tub outside, which is going to be a task in itself. But I did it, and here we are on flat surface where I put my tub up the last few years. So the next step is to fill up with that gravel I just took out of the tubs. And I will put both those buckets in there. Now, first I'm going to level it off, but it's not going to stop there. I want to try something a little bit more with this one. Now, I'm putting sand on it, and I'm going to put a couple buckets over the top of this gravel. I'm going to do that for a few reasons. One, when I had this tub outside initially a couple years ago, I didn't have a substrate in it at all, and it was so hard to see the fish or anything at the bottom of that tub. So my hope is that putting this light color sand in there, one, I'm going to be able to see the fish more, and two, is going to cap that very saturated gravel that's been sitting in my pond for a couple years now with bacteria, and will hopefully kind of try to make a natural substrate out of it that way through the summer. Now, I just put my Amazon sword in there that was in my tub initially. I hope that it will make it. Every time I move swords in the past, they wind up dying back before they come back, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to fill it up with water, and I also put those water lilies, pond lilies in there that I've been keeping outside every year, and I bring back in. So we'll see how this goes. And just like that, the pond is full and looking great, except for the crud on top, but don't worry about that. That'll be going away soon. But the next thing that I want to talk about is this tower of bricks I have here and really explain why it's there. But I do want to put one more layer of bricks on there so I can get it just up over the surface for what I want to use it for. And to do that, I will do it real quick. And what am I going to put up there? That's right, one of my old summer tub ponds from last year. Now, why am I going to put this up there? Well, I had this idea the entire winter of what I wanted to do with this. And what that was really is I wanted to put a bulkhead on it with a drain. Now, why do I want to do that? Well, this idea I had all winter long was to create almost a waterfall effect. And what I wanted to do with this top pond is put gravel in it and cover up that bulkhead from the inside and plant terrestrial plants like flowers or any type of plants like that to grow, so the water from the main pond could come into that. Now, I want to fill it as high as I can, but at this point I just filled it halfway. And then I placed a filter from inside my old canister filter in front of that bulkhead drain so gravel couldn't escape down it. And now what I want to do is use my Higer aquarium water pump. Higer nicely sent this to me recently, and I just did do an unboxing video of it recently, which I'll link here. I wanted it to specifically for this, to be able to put this in my big pond and pump water up into that small one. And that's what we're going to try to do here. Now this is an old hose for my canister filter as well, so it works perfect. And what I want to do is turn this on and try to get the water pumping up into there, and we'll see how it goes. Now, to start off with, I really have to play around with the controls of this to find the right flow rate to be able to pump the water in here. Currently, I have it at about 50. It goes from 30 to 100. What I want to do is get it high enough, or the water will stay high enough to be able to water the plants, but not too high that it overflows that. So it's really going to be important to really dial this in to get that correct flow rate. And again, I just want to thank Haiger very much for sending this to me. It was very appreciative. And without this pump, I would not be able to do this project. Now, looking at this pond and seeing how the water is filled up in there with half the gravel in there, it really makes me think, do I really want to fill this up with gravel and put plants in it? Or do I want to make this a pond? Do I want to make this a pond on top of a pond? That's really something I got to think about, because I really find that to be a really interesting thing to try. My only worry is that if the power would go out, that the water would sink down too low and would destroy, kill any fish. Or two, if it rains too much, that it would overflow the top of the small pond and have an issue with that as well. So that's really something I'm going to have to sleep on and think about a little bit here. But really, that pond on top of a pond, I find very interesting. So like I said, let me sleep on this one and I'll think about it. Well, it is the next day, as you can see, and I have slept on it, and I am fully committed to try this pond on top of a pond and steer away from the terrestrial plants and that being a planter on the top. I do have a heater in here, by the way, as you can see. That's mainly for my Amazon sword, because of putting the very cold water in here. I really didn't want to shock it any more than it's already going to be shocked. And as you can see, this bulkhead also has a little bit of a leak on it. It's not terrible. It's dripping some, but that's definitely something I have to keep an eye on. My hope is that maybe that'll kind of seal up on its own, but again, something I'm going to have to keep an eye on. So like I said, I'm going with the pond on top of a pond, and I've been playing around with the flow rate on this, and for the most part, it's been holding where it is. The one thing I do have a concern about is overflowage if it rains. And also I have noticed that once in a while, like if gravel shifts or something, the water seems to flow more. And that's something I got to tinker around with. But first, let me get some plants in here. Let's get this started. So every pond needs plants. So what I'm going to do is plant this with a bunch of my dorsage and Ludwigia that I had in this pond initially, and a little bit of hornwort as well. And one thing I do want to note is I did drain this down once just to see how far the water would be if that pump stopped. And there still is at least 2 inches or so of water on there at the bottom of that. So if the power would go out, I still should be fine with the fish being able to survive. So this is the plants in there. Now for the big pond, we're not going to just stop at this Amazon sword and those pond lilies. I want to put some plants in here too. The same, I've got a bunch of dorsage and some Ludwigia, and I'll put as much of it as I can spread around throughout this pond, because I really want this to get very well planted and take off. I struggled quite a bit with green water last year in my small ponds, and I want to try to prevent that some by putting as many plants in here as I can to start off with. So like I said, a bunch of dorsage and Ludwigia will be the trick to try to put in here to do that. But with that, let's add some fish. I plan on putting those 2 goldfish in here like I mentioned earlier, and they're going to really stick out with this light substrate and that reddish orange bodies. And I think they're really going to thrive in here now. They're obviously going to go hide. They haven't been outside since the first year I got them. That was 2 years ago. But they should be able to thrive out here with all that live food that's going to be entering into this pond, being outdoors as it is. Now this is 1 week later. As you can see, there has been some changes on this top pond and within it itself. I made some upgrades. First thing I did is I put a shutoff valve on that main drain, with the purpose is I can really control that flow rate a lot better. And I also put an overflow drain up there as well, so the water can come out if it gets too high. And also, I put another piece of PVC tubing on the inside with a pre-filter, so that goes up even higher into the water column. So now if the power would go out and the water would go down, there's going to be at least 4 inches of water at the bottom of that. So I should never, ever have to worry about my fish dying. And plus I have a little pre-filter in that overflow for when I put a bunch of guppies and stuff in here, the fry can't get sucked down into that main pond. But truth be told, I'm really not worried about that because I plan on putting a bunch of guppies and endlers at the bottom pond as well. I also have these peace lilies in here that I had in my pond downstairs in my fish room. I don't know if they're going to stay out here, to be honest with you, because they're probably going to get sun scorched once that really hot sun starts to come out. So I think I will plan on putting something different in those spots. But now let's put some fish in that top pond. What I got is a mixture of some really cool looking guppy endlers that I had. And you know, honestly, the majority of these were probably pulled out of these ponds from last summer that have been breeding because they've been in my mixed guppy tank. So I'm just going to pour them in here along with all that duckweed. Now, and the duckweed is going to play a part as well. If you can't tell, the water has already got a tint of green to it, and it's only been a week. So I want that to be able to build up with other floating plants I'm going to put in there to create a barrier from that sun. And to kind of help with that as well is I have some guppy grass here and some hornwort I'm going to throw in this lower pond so that can start sucking up the nutrients to try to help eat away at that green water and also create some cover as well from the sun from beating on the water. And then I'm going to put some guppies and endlers as well down into this one. Now, I know I have goldfish in here. My hope is that they don't all of a sudden decide to eat them all. They lived with a bunch of these guppies and endlers in the pond when they were in my fish room, and I never really seen them eat them. I'm sure they picked off some of them here and there, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. But really, my hope is that I can get a pond just jam-packed full of guppy endlers because I love watching them breed outside, and they get such mass numbers of breeding outside compared to in your aquarium. But this is my summer tubs, my pond on top of a pond. I am extremely excited and just love the way that it has turned out. And I most definitely will give updates throughout the summer showing how it goes. And it's summertime, folks. Get outside and start some tubs. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really love and was thinking about this project for months now, since this winter, and it's changed over the course of my initial planning and even during this video. I mean, I wasn't originally going to do a pond on top of a pond. You know, like I said, it was going to be terrestrial plants basically being watered and filtered down into the main pond. So I absolutely love this project and how it turned out. And like I said in the video as well, I do plan on adding some different plants in there yet, so I will keep you updated with that. But if you like this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. But if you do, make sure you hit that notification bell. And as always, remember to think outside the box and take a step back into nature. I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.